go, Brian. Looks like we're live on Facebook.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Brian Curtis here with Dale Archdekin. And today we're going to talk about kind of the emergency that we're in our market. And that emergency to me and to Dale is that we don't have enough sellers. We have plenty of buyers and we just don't have enough homes to sell them. So we're very excited about this. And, so get your notepads, get your pens out, be ready. And just for everybody's information, if for whatever reason you're not able to stay on with us the whole time or you can't catch this, we'll definitely have this uploaded on Facebook and uploaded to YouTube so you guys can watch it in the replay. We feel like there's a bunch of good information here today. So I'm excited about it. Dale, love to pass it over to you. What you got?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's really important. And one thing that, because you and I both coach and train people across the country, and what we consistently run into is a shortage of inventory. Some places are, it's mildly annoying where you might have a few multiple offers here and there. Some are, even more annoying and difficult where every time that you go to make an offer, there's going to be at least one other person competing with you. And then there are some markets where literally the expectation is that there are going to be 30 to 40 to 50 offers. And the sales are going somewhere between 10 to 50% over asking price. And some markets where if you are not an all cash buyer, you have no hope of winning a deal right now. And that's very difficult. If you're a buyer heavy team, your livelihood is really based on the ability to sell houses. And if you have to write 10 to 15 offers in the hopes of getting one accepted, that's putting a significant hamper on your ability to sell real estate and your livelihood. So, what we're going to be talking about today is what are the strategies we can implement right now, especially for my buyer teams out there, my buyer agents out there, and for those who maybe dabble in some listings, but haven't been really serious about consistently generating it. I'm not even talking about generating listings at that point. For God's sake, what I want you to first do is identify people who are willing to sell their houses and have not yet listed them on the open market. How do you find those? How do you find those seller opportunities? Sell them to your own buyers first. Put your own oxygen mask on when you're on the airplane before you help out anybody else in your industry, right? You go and find you some sellers to sell your buyers to. And then if you can't get it sold, give it to the rest of the people out there. Right, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let me just say this, make sure that you're complying with NAR's regulations.
Don't break laws.
Well, and and it's not even a law. It's just that NAR came out with, I don't know what's called. It came out last May that basically said don't hold listings off the market. So stay in compliance with that. If you're a member of NAR like I am, then you need to comply with that. That's one of the things that we agree to. And what a lot of people were doing is just holding the inventory and then letting all their office show the property. It didn't sell. Okay, now I'm going to put it on the market. First of all, that's unethical because you're not best representing your seller. And second of all, it's now against the rule for NAR. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about stuff that's not on the market and you do not have a listing agreement.
You do not have a listing agreement for it, right? Now, here's the thing. If I go and I talk to someone who owns a property and I say, hey, Mr. Property Owner, Mrs. Property Owner, would you be willing to sell that property? Oh, you would? Fantastic. How much do you think you want for that property? Oh, that's what you want. I am not representing you. I have no paperwork with you. Will you allow me to bring my buyer? I think I have the perfect buyer for it. Can I show your property to my buyer? I have a fiduciary duty to my buyer to get them the best deal that I possibly can and protect their interest. I have no requirement to protect that seller's best interest, right? I bring the buyer there.
Yeah, I think there's bundles of, that's a different webinar, but there's bundles of responsibility that you have towards a buyer, a client, and a different bundle that you have towards the public in general. So, we still have to have honesty, we can't lie to them.
But I don't have to tell a seller who is not listed with me and I have no paperwork, hey, seller, you should not just show it to my buyer and you should go expose it to the rest of the world and bring in 50 other buyers to compete with mine. I'm not required to say that.
And I would actually argue that you're not doing your client fiduciary in that situation. If you're creating a bidding war for someone you don't represent,
you're working against their best interest.
Exactly. So
you just ruined their best interest.
And we could talk for hours about all this stuff, but I think Dale's point is one of the best ways to help your buyers in this market is go find property that people
Yes.
are willing to sell that's not
Yes.
currently listed. And that's,
Yes.
and that's great. And we're going to talk about some of those strategies today, some of the ones to do that, some of them also to get new listings, because, we still do want listings. There's nothing, listings are still the lifeblood. And by the way, if you haven't learned it in this market, you're never going to learn it. Listings is how you survive in this
Oh
business.
yeah.
And why have so many people become buyer heavy teams? Like, I can tell you, my teams are
It's
relatively
easy.
higher. Right. So, because I can write a check and get more buyers. I can't
Yes.
necessarily write a check, although we will discuss some ways that you can do some of that, but it's not as simple. Like, I can't write a check and my phone starts ringing tomorrow. I can write a check to Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, Homes.com. There's all these different things. I can write a check to them, and literally within 24 hours, my phone can ring. That is not
Yes.
true as much on the seller side.
No, I wish. When we figure that out, we will both be billionaires. But yeah, it's harder to do. It takes more work. And, typically listings go to referrals first, right? They either go to repeat or referrals. That people who typically the majority of people who list their homes for sale list with somebody they've already worked with or somebody who knows somebody, right? Then the next step down from that is those listings, if they aren't going with somebody they've worked with before or somebody that they get referred to, they are responding to marketing, right? They're responding to farming marketing. They're responding to internet marketing. They're responding to a lead funnel. They're responding to something, or even signs that they've seen in their neighborhood, which is a form of marketing over and over again, right? That's how that goes. The final tier of that, if we're able to catch them, goes to agents they have not known, have not been referred to, have never seen before, but are putting in the grind work to find them and have the skill set to convert them. I would say, am I missing anything? That's pretty much the tier of how listings go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I want to point this out because I think it's an important thing. The statistics are 61% of all business in real estate is done by referral. But here's the thing, get away from that statistic. It's an accurate statistic, but it's a, how do I say this? It's not a statistic that accurately describes our market. Why is that? Because we have a whole bunch of agents doing 3 and 4 deals a year, and 100% of their business is referrals and past clients. So there's still a good percentage of market out there that we can go after, and that's what Dale and I are going to talk about today. But don't let people believe that it's talk you into the only way to be successful in this business is past clients and sphere, because it'll take 20 years for you to build up a successful business if that's your
Yeah,
business.
yeah. In fact, I've seen it. I was a hardcore prospector with no sphere when I was in the business, and I didn't do as much business as those people who did have a well-established sphere and past client. But here's what I saw. I was continually doing business with new people, a higher percentage, and I was able to grow my business faster than people who only did business with their sphere past client because
Yeah,
it's so insular.
yeah, you can't scale business. You can't scale sphere and past clients. You can do well with them, and it can be a very integral part of your business, but you cannot scale it.
Yeah.
So, and that's an important thing. So anyway, we could talk philosophy all afternoon. So let's kind of break into some of this stuff. So let's get some meat and bones and give some people
Yeah.
some action on what they can actually do.
Yeah.
So let's start with the kind of the lower end or less expensive or even free stuff that we got. So why don't
Yeah.
let's talk about some of that stuff, Dale.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as everybody knows, the free or lower cost stuff that takes more work, takes more elbow grease, and frankly takes more skill, would be the things where you're cold prospecting people, right? If you're in a market where you can do open houses or you can door knock without getting shot at or having the police called on you right now, given coronavirus, then do it, because open houses, getting out there face to face with people is a good way to make new contacts, find new nurtures, and potentially find new business. And then Brian and I, over the course of time, have also circle prospected, where you're just simply calling into neighborhoods. It's best done as a farming support or as open house support or event support. But if you're not, and right now you're just hurting for business and you need to be making contacts and you don't want any more buyers, then you can just simply call into neighborhoods around circle prospecting, or look for people who have given the signal that they want to do something or did want to do something at some time, right? Which would be for sale by owners. If there are any expired in your market, give them a call anyway. Withdrawns from the markets, which, these days for sale by owners are going to sell pretty quickly. Expireds, withdrawns, there aren't going to be many of them. They would have had to try exceptionally hard for their house not to sell. But those are all options. And the other day, Brian, we were talking about this on, was it on Cash Call that we were talking about it?
It was.
Yeah, we said divorce, probates, reluctant landlords, rent for rent by owner people, anybody who owns property that's putting it out there in the world that you can find contact info for, have a conversation with them. It's going to take a lot more conversations. It's going to be lower productivity at this moment in this environment. But at least if you don't have a big budget to be purchasing leads or to be creating your own marketing around them, it is activity that can drive business for you.
Absolutely. And I want to focus on something when it comes to open houses. The majority of agents that you speak to say, what's the purpose of doing an open house? The typical answer is to keep the seller happy, right? Okay, so I'm going to keep my seller happy. I'm going to do an open house, because we know it's like statistically less than 2% of homes are sold at the open house every year. So it's not to sell the house. That's bad math. But here's the opportunity, since we're talking about sellers, this is my personal belief. If I'm doing an open house, first of all, I'm putting out a minimum of 25 signs. And I think when I say that, most people say, we don't even own 25 open house signs. Go buy some open house signs. They're not
Go buy 15 more.
So what else is it about? So I literally, let's say I was a quarter of a mile from the last turn between the turn and the open house. I'm going to put 10 signs in there. Why? Because I am not because people really need those 10 signs to find my open house. I am telling every single owner who drives by that, who lives in that neighborhood, that I do more than everybody else.
Look how much work I'm doing.
Right. What else am I putting up? Those big flags. I don't know what they're called, but they're big, tall flags. I put two of those, one on each side of the driveway. I'm going to put balloons out. I'm going to put sign right. I'm going to do all of this stuff. Like, I want someone to drive by that, and whether they're looking to buy a house, looking to sell a house, they're going to, something is happening over there. 95% of the open houses I see at this, they start at 2:00. At 1:55, the agent pulls in the driveway, pounds the open house sign in there, and put one on the corner, and goes, I don't understand why no one showed up for my open house. So if you're going to spend 3, 4, 5 hours on a weekend doing open houses, put out 25 signs, and then have inside that open house, have seller information as well. Remember, there's a whole bunch of people who are walking in there, and for years we've all been irritated. Man, the only people who came to my open houses were all these stupid nosy neighbors. Yeah, do you know what they were nosy neighbors for? They were looking for the next realtor to sell their house. Now, some people are just completely nosy, but I guarantee you, if you get 10 neighbors who walk in there, some percentage of those people want to buy the house. So what else are you doing? I do 10, 10, 20s. I'm not familiar with the term, but basically, I'm going to take a house. I'm going to go 10 houses in each direction. I'm going to go 20 houses across the street. I'm going to circle prospect inside that neighborhood to do an open house. If you're going to do this, it's all in. As far as I'm concerned, if you're going to pound a sign and put one on the corner, don't do it. It's not worth your time. And also you're wasting your seller's time. So 25 houses, seller contact, or 25 signs, seller contact information, and focus on that neighborhood and becoming an expert and getting someone who's known in that neighborhood. It helps, I promise.
Yeah, it does hugely. And so for those people in markets where they can't be doing open houses right now, I didn't want to mix low tech and sort of online, but here's what I would say is, if you're doing virtual open houses where you are inviting people via email, via social media ads, whatever it is, to come and see that virtual open house, we all know that all those buyer leads that we generate, there are listings in there. There are people that need to trade up. There are people that need to sell also. So even if you can only do virtual open houses, right, you're still establishing a presence in a neighborhood. You can still do some marketing into that target demographic, right, to have your face there, to have your branding there, and potentially even get in communication with them via this virtual open house. And you can pick up some sellers in those areas, even doing it that way. So I know some markets can't do open houses right now, or it's significantly frowned on, or people don't feel comfortable doing it. So
yeah, Well, and
Yeah,
that's going to change though, Dale. You know this. Like we got to think big picture. So at some point in time, that's going to go away, and I think it's going to happen in the next 90 days. And I can't guarantee that. I'm not an
90
epidemiologist or
days.
anything.
Everybody, you heard that. Brian Curtis
Not
has
an
planted his
epidemiologist.
flag. He said 90 days.
But I really
I
do. I
would,
think you're going to
I
see.
believe it. More and more people are getting vaccinated, and
Yeah,
I mean, coronavirus doesn't actually exist in Florida or Texas right now, which
I've heard that. Sorry to insult all those
it's I,
Floridians and Texans, but
it, yeah. So I mean, obviously, if it doesn't exist there, soon it won't exist here either, which is good.
absolutely. So, but take this opportunity to plan for the future. And this is what this is about. And here's the thing, if you don't take anything else away from this thing, sellers are not writing out business. And what I mean by that is they're nurture, 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 nurture. That's what
For the
we've got to
most
be
part.
doing with these people. There's always going to be exceptions to that. But ultimately, everything that we're going to be doing is about how can I help these people in the future. So if you're not someone who's interested in nurturing, then I wouldn't watch the rest of our webinar. I'm just kidding. Continue to watch.
Then you need to partner with a nurturer or hire one is what you need to do.
So you talked about expireds, Dale, and
yeah.
I agree with you. Like I looked the other day, and in a 7-day period, I think there was 3 expireds in my market, and that's not an exaggeration. That's a real number. But
yeah.
here's an opportunity that no one seems to be talking about. Why don't I call expireds from 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019? Why? Because those people didn't sell
now
their
you
house.
have great news for them.
Yeah, they didn't sell their house, obviously, because they're in expired. And let's say they had their house listed for 300 in 2018. I don't know every market, but I feel pretty confident if you couldn't sell your house for $300,000 in 2018, you could probably sell your house for $400,000 in 2021. And I'm just making up numbers, but my point is, what a great conversation. Hey, Dale, this is Brian. I'm just reaching out to you. Your house expired in 2018. You didn't sell it. Are you still even interested in selling your house? And the reason I ask is, are you familiar with how much the market has changed in the last 3 years? I think we make a mistake. And I don't know about you, Dale, but I think we make a mistake because we get so insulated on what we know. Every real estate agent in the country knows there's no inventory. But we also assume that means that every other human being we contact knows there's no inventory. Guess what? That's not true. Because some people don't even watch the news. Some people don't go on Facebook. Some people aren't doing this stuff. There's a real good possibility that somebody has no idea that it's a complete extreme seller's market. Opportunity to educate them. And here's the thing. I don't want to list my house. Fabulous. You know what? I've got a list of buyers who might be interested in come over and take a look at it. Was there any chance that I could do that? Because there's plan A and there's plan B. We didn't used to like plan B. Plan B was I've got a buyer for your house. And that actually used to irritate me. I mean, I don't know about you, Dale, but when I get on the phone with an expired or somebody and they say, well, I don't want to list my house with you, but you can bring me a buyer. That used to irritate me, right?
Now I'd be hoping for that.
Now
I'd be looking for that.
Right. So,
in fact, you might even want to start out by, hey, I'm not calling to list your house. I just want to know if you'd be willing to entertain an offer from my buyer.
Yes. And think about the value of that. Granted, you're not getting 6%, you're only going to get 3, or you know what? I wouldn't be afraid to charge 4 or 5% for that. I know it's market to market, but at the end of the day, unfortunately, this is what I do. I charge 4% because I'm going to represent you and the buyer. And by the way, I do think it's smart to represent the seller if they allow you to, just because it cleans stuff up and, makes it a little bit easier, at least in my market. But, I'll only charge you 1% because I don't have to spend any money on marketing. That's where I'm going with that. So, we'll do 4% instead of 6, and it's a good drop. And you go ahead and do it, And here's the great thing: I bring them over. They don't like the house. Now that seller's like, well, maybe I do want to list my house.
So that happened with my wife just recently. She identified a property in our area that was known to not be inhabited. Our friends saw activity going on at the property, alerted my wife, who they know was an agent, and is constantly asking if anybody knows someone who wants to sell their property, right? So alerts my wife. She tries to research the owners, tries to look them up to get their number, eventually just drives over to the property and catches people outside working on the property, says, hey, what are you guys doing with this? Are you selling it? And they said, we are. And she said, fantastic. Can I bring my buyer to look at it? Brought that buyer decided to buy somewhere else. She said, hey, you know what though? I have another buyer. Can I bring them? Brings the other buyer's trying to decide. In the meantime, that seller says to her, hey, you know what? My son said he knows this agent that he likes, and wants me to talk to. But I said, what the hell has that agent been trying to do to sell my house? You've already brought 2 potential buyers here. I'm going to list it with you if that one doesn't purchase it. That's exactly what happened. That's what they said to her. So that is real. What Brian didn't just give you an idea. Brian just told you how it works.
Yeah. And again, most of the stuff that I tell people is because I screwed it up and I'm telling you not to do it.
Right.
But it's kind of a joke. But there are things. I mean, most of this stuff comes from experience. So,
Yes.
and let me just quick recap. Open houses, circle prospecting, and old expireds are a great start, and stuff that cost almost no money. A list of old expireds might cost $500 or $600 a year. What I mean by that, for every old expired in 2018, you might pay $500 or $600 for it. So it's not expensive data. There is a cost for it, but it's not that expensive data. So
Yeah.
that's very, very inexpensive and very much worth your time.
Yeah. But listen, so that low cost, it's like low cost or free, but it's high work. You have to put the work in, right? You've got to make the dials. You got to have the conversations. You got to go through the motions. You've got to identify nurtures. You got to identify potential future business, and you have to take a lot of no's. That's just the way it works, right?
But I'll ask you this, Dale. If I've got to show somebody, let's say 40 houses and write 10 offers, then
Yeah.
is it more work or is it just different work?
It's different work, right? So that's the funny thing. I was talking with a client today who she's newer in the business. She's part-time, and she's like, yeah, so I have these buyers. I've shown them like 40 houses, and they keep making lowball offers. And I said, okay, how about we find more buyers? And she was like, well, but they keep taking up so much of my time, and I've invested so much time in them already, and I need them to buy something. And I said, listen, by the time those people make a decision, you probably could have already found 1 or 2 more people who will actually do what you tell them to do when you tell them to do it, and will transact with you before you get those tire kickers to do anything. So if sometimes we fool ourselves into thinking that we're putting all this work in and there has to be a payoff. The universe has to give me back my investment. It does not have to give you back your investment, right? So don't get blinded or limit yourself thinking, I'm just waiting for this one egg to hatch. You need to keep piling more stuff on top of it, having more conversations. The more conversations you have, the more people you identify, the better clients you're going to have.
Absolutely. 100%. So
Yeah.
what's our next group of lead sources
paid.
we want to talk
Let's
about?
talk about some money. All right. So we got a little money to put on the table, and we want to cut some of the time off. We want to shave some of that curve between the amount of work I have to put out and how long it's going to take for me to identify somebody who wants to do something. So Brian, you're really good at this. I know you test out a lot of different lead strategies and sources. So why don't you take this one, talk about some of the paid stuff where we can be finding sellers.
Okay. So ZBuyer is probably the least expensive one out there. And I've heard a lot of people, it's funny, ZBuyer is one of those lead sources that people love or hate. And I think most people love to hate them is really what it comes down to. But here's the great thing about this. These people are responding to an ad that says, we've got a cash offer for your house. And, and again, do these vary? Absolutely. And it's a grind because it's very inexpensive. As a matter of fact, I figured it out. I spend about $3,600 a year on ZBuyer. So if I get one closing, I'm more than breaking even, just literally on one closing. But again, I have to call through them a lot. So let me give a quick script on this because I think this is a mistake that people are making. People are calling ZBuyers and saying, hey, I saw that you were interested in selling your house. I'm a real estate agent. I'd love to come over and list your house. No, I'm not interested in that. Respond to what they're doing. So the script that we use, and it's very simple, is, hey, this is Brian Curtis, Curtis Realty Group, reaching out to you today because you made an inquiry about getting a cash offer for your house. We have several investors who might be interested in buying your house. I'd love to come over, take a look at it, give you an idea what your house is worth and what one of our investors might pay for it. With that being said, I have available time on Tuesday or Wednesday. Which of those days works better for you? So you're responding to what they're responding to instead of coming in and talking about home values or talking about, I can tell you what your house is worth, or talking, I want to list your house. Respond to what they want. So that is a great way to work ZBuyer. And, we've had, I don't know the number of closings that we've had with ZBuyer, but quite a few. And I want to do this for all the people who already are getting ZBuyer, by the way. I want to go back to the kind of the strategy that Dale's talking about. I would go back to every ZBuyer that came in 2020 and call them up and say, hey, this is Brian with Curtis Realty Group. I'm reaching out to you today because you made an inquiry about getting a cash offer for buy your house. I've got a list of buyers who want to buy your house. And I would love to come over and take a look at it, give you an idea what the pricing might be, and then we can bring some buyers over. So
Yeah.
instead of hey, I want to come over and list your house, I got a list of buyers, and I promise you that if you're a good buyer's agent, you do have a list of buyers. I'm not making that up. That's a
We
very
all do.
legit thing.
Anybody who's
So
been buying internet leads for any length of time has a list of potential buyers in their market.
yeah. So, ZBuyer, I think I think I have 2 counties and I pay $279 a month. I think that's my math on it. I don't remember exactly all the details, but my point is very inexpensive lead source, but it still have to pay for it. Fast Home Offer is kind of the next level of ZBuyer. And so what is Fast Home Offer for those of you who haven't seen it? Fast Home Offer is actually a service that you reach out to them and you bid. So, depending on the market, each market's a little bit different. The last time I was buying a lot of these, I was paying about $150 a lead. They've gotten to over $400 a lead in my market. And you basically go in and what happens is I put it in there for $250 and then somebody else bids 300 and now I got to bid 350. And so it kind of goes like that. But in your market, it's definitely worth taking a look at it. And it's the exact same script. These people, it's called Fast Home Offer. So what they're expecting is to get a cash offer in a short period of time. So either be the buyer, and a lot of real estate agents to do that. I am a real estate agent. However, I'm coming over to give you an idea what I'm willing to write a cash offer on your house for, or be the investor. I've got a list of investors who I can, will take you look at your house. So let me take a look, give you an idea what it's worth, and I'll give you an idea what our investor would pay. Very effective. Realistically, if we've got 10 of those leads, we are probably either buying or actually listing probably 2 or 3 out of those 10. So it's a high cost lead, but it's also a pretty good lead for what it's worth. So.
Good. And I assume you're turning those over to your investors if it's not going to work for your database.
No, absolutely. So, I actually do, by the way, everything I say, I try and make it true instead of just making some stuff up. Hey, hey, Mr. Fizbo, I'm going to be in your neighborhood on Tuesday. No, you weren't. We don't need to lie. But hey, I do have a list of investors. I guarantee you, if you don't have a list of investors, go to your local investment group and walk in and say, I'm a realtor. I'm looking for investors, and they will run to you and, probably buy you dinner and all this other. This is not a hard group of people to find. So.
No. They're looking for you.
Yeah, if you don't have it, go get it. It's simple to create. And I mean by that, Google local investment group, whatever city you're in, and I guarantee you there's more activity than you ever wanted. So that's an opportunity. Kazoo, you and I were talking about this earlier, is basically depending on how much money you spend with them a month. I think I looked at their base package and it's $300 a month, and that gets you 10 leads a month. And you get to pick them. So they have buyers and sellers. But again, it's a great opportunity to build relationships. Some of the other ones, and I'll let Dale take over here on the next ones, but some of the free pay behind this, like UpNest is a good one. So UpNest, you have to bid. You have to say, unfortunately, you have to cut your commission a little bit for that. So I go from 6 to 5.5. I'm not interested in those 3.5, 4.5 kind of garbage, but I go to 5.5, and then allows you to do that. Referral exchange is another one. HomeLight is one of our favorite. I bet you we'll close 15 to 20 deals every year on HomeLight. So Dave Ramsey's another one. Estately. There's all of these out there that you can do. And I know Tristan actually did a post on all the free, when I say free, they're pay at the end sources. So those are a great opportunity for us as well to get those pay on the back end sources. And they're really good. I can tell you HomeLight, I want to say if we get 10 HomeLight leads that are sellers, 7 of them list their house. I'm not saying with us, but 7 of those 10 people will list their house. They're
going to transact.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. And you are in a lot of those, you're in a competitive situation. So that's the other thing to understand, right? You're taking on that lead. You need to have your skills brushed up, and you have to get out there and you have to compete for it. So unfortunately, there is really no source where they're just going to be dumping, seller leads into your lap, and there's no competition, and you just go sign the paperwork. That would be great too. What's funny is as we're talking about this, with the free and low cost, we totally skipped over Sphere, which if it's not obvious to everybody, they should be having conversations with the people they already know, and not just people who are past clients or people that you like talking to. I'm saying you should be thinking about who is everyone that you possibly know from any area of your life, right? Neighbors, church, events, groups, clubs, kids' school, anything that you do or any interaction that you have, you should be asking these people, letting them know what is going on in the market right now and the fact that their friends or family can probably get a lot more money than they think for their home right now if they're looking to sell, and that they need to talk to you to find that out.
Absolutely. And
Yep.
here's something that we created too. We called it our COVID relief bill. And basically what is that? So call anybody who you know, and that could be past clients, it could be Sphere, it could be, and just say, we are doing a special for anyone who has job loss or income loss due to COVID, and we will list your house and we will charge you, you can do a reduced commission or you can do free. And when I say free, you're still going to charge the buy side of that. And here's the reality. I'm not actually looking to do stuff for free, but if I'm somebody, and if Dale's my past client, and I call him up and say, hey, Dale, how are things going? We're calling all of our past clients to just let them know if they were negatively affected by COVID, and they had an income loss and they need to sell their house, we are going to sell that for them for free. Now, I'm hoping two things. First of all, I'm hoping that nothing bad happened to Dale. I like Dale. He's a nice
Right.
guy. And realistically, if you call 100 people, that might be two people that happen to. I mean, this is not, 20, we're not seeing a huge amount of people who lost their job and want to sell their house. But here's the reality. Brian, I wasn't affected by COVID, but can you tell me what's going on with the market? Yeah, absolutely. Here's what's going on with the market. Bam, 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 bam. We don't run those programs to actually hope to sell houses for free. We'll do it. We'll honor our word. But really what we're doing is we're opening a conversation and kicking in the law of reciprocity. Hey, Dale, something bad happened to you, I'm willing to help you. Well, Brian, nothing bad happened to me, but I do want to sell my house.
Yeah.
And that's just a great opportunity to create open dialogue versus,
Yeah.
hey, this is Brian, do you want to sell your house? No.
Yeah. How many times can you just call up and ask the same question? Who do you know that wants to sell their house?
Yes.
You can't. It gets you will get ignored, right? People will not be answering that call or responding to you if that's all the message ever is. So the great thing about that is it gives you a different position to come from where you're coming from contribution, and it's just it sounds different, right?
Yeah, and again, it's really
That's
it's an easy conversation too. Like no one's going to go, "You're such a jerk for calling to offer to sell my house for free." No one's ever said that.
Right, exactly. All right, so we covered, well, so we have the referral ones, right? That you've got the pay up front to buy some leads who they've generated them already. You've got the pay afterwards to we'll give you these leads, you compete for them, you pay us a referral fee on them. In some cases you compete. But then there are companies, like Street Text and other companies where we can run our own advertising, and they are platforms that will facilitate that for us so that we could be running seller valuation ads or other types of ads, either through PPC or on social media, and be bringing those inquiries to us. Again, a lot of those are going to take nurture. A lot of those are going to take rapport building and conversation, because virtually anybody wants to know what the value of their home is. But at least for the most part, they've signaled that they are homeowners. You've identified who they are, and at least some level of curiosity as to what their value is. And that doesn't mean that they're all going to be sellers, but they will add into your database and can be nurtured over time. And you will find through those people who are ready to do something in the near future and hadn't found a real estate agent yet.
Absolutely. And Street Text is one of our favorites. And one of the things that we really like about Street Text is they've got built-in A/B testing, or even I can't remember what they call it. You can run 3 ads at the same
Split
time.
test.
Here's split test. Thank you. I couldn't find the verbiage on that. So they allow you to run this split test. So what's the basic philosophy? Okay. And Street Text, I believe, don't quote me on this, is about $300 a month. So it's not like we're not asking you to spend $10,000 a month on this.
Plus your spend, right?
Plus
So
your
it's
spend.
300 for the platform and technology, and split test, then you've got whatever your spend is.
Right. And so in my market, it's going to be a little bit less because our average sales price is only about $250,000. But even in high-end markets, your Seattle's, your Denver's, your LA, you're still only probably going to pay somewhere in the range of $8 to $10 for that lead. So it's not super expensive. So what you do is you run these leads. They're already pre-built for you. You don't have to get smart. You just go in there and pick 3 ads. You run them all simultaneously for 12 to 24 hours, find out which one's performing best, take the ad spend off of the 2 that weren't performing, double down on one of the other ads. And if you're going to do this, and this is an important thing, have a system. So for example, we use HomeBot and we use BombBomb along with those. What is HomeBot? Basically, a HomeBot is something that shows somebody what their house is worth. And then BombBomb is video email. So if you're not going to do video emails, I think you're missing out doing these type of things. That being said, the other thing that we have to be careful of is when someone asks for a home val, Dale, does that mean they want to sell their house?
No, not necessarily.
So what kind of script do we want to use for somebody who put up a home val? I guess I'll throw that to you, and then I'd be happy to share what I do as well.
Sure. Hey, looks like you requested your value on whatever street. Now, assuming it's a phone call, Brian?
Yeah, let's do a phone call.
All right, do from the top. Ring, ring.
Hey, this is Brian.
Hey, Brian, this is Dale Archdekin with Whatever Realty. Looks like you requested a home valuation on this address. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. That's my house.
Okay, fantastic. Now, presuming that it didn't give you one, some systems do, some systems don't. Does Street Text give one?
No, they don't. And
Okay.
they don't, that's, I don't like the ones that immediately give you a home evaluation personally. That's just my personal opinion.
So Street Text doesn't. So I'm working on your valuation here, and I just want to make sure I give you the best information possible before I send it over to you. I don't want you making decisions based on bad information, right? So I just need to ask you a few more questions about your property. And first up is what you need the valuation for, because it influences what number comes back to you.
Well, I've heard that the market's pretty hot. I was considering, I know interest rates are pretty low. I thought maybe I'd refi my house, but I don't know what it's worth. So I'm just trying to figure out what it might be worth on a refi.
Got it. Excellent. Okay. So for a refi, now I'm going to ask you questions about your property, and I'm going to tell you I'm going to refine the search, and then I'm going to do some rapport building and find out how long you've lived there, and if you have any idea where you might be going next, if you had any reason to, right? That's pretty much it.
Absolutely. I do a similar thing, and here's what I start out, and this can be a text message or a phone call. If you don't mind, you made an inquiry about your value of your home. Would you mind rating your home on a scale of 1 to 10? So it's a great, perfect text message that goes out for that person who doesn't answer.
That's a great message to start with. Yeah.
Yeah, because here's the thing, and I've learned this personally. Like honestly, people don't usually hang up with you on that question. If you be aggressive, hey, this is Brian, I see that you did it. When are you thinking about selling? I'm not thinking about selling. I'm not interested. I apologize. And here's what you'll hear 9 out of 10 times. I didn't mean to send that. They did mean to send that. What they didn't mean is to get harassed by a salesperson.
It's to talk to you.
Right.
They meant, I didn't mean to talk to you.
Right. That's really what they meant. But that text message that goes out, can you rate your house on a scale of 1 to 10? I bet you if you send, assuming you have good phone numbers, you send that out to 100 people, 75% of those people will send you back a number. And now you have the opportunity to say, great, I'm going to put together your home valuation. I'll get it sent over via email, and hope you have a great day. And then what you do after you send that over to them, after you've sent them some other information, hey, Dale, this is Brian, just reaching out to you today. We sent you a home valuation for your house last week. I was curious, what were you guys looking for? And by the way, how did you feel like we did? Start a conversation. I also like this. If I'm on the phone with somebody and somebody says, oh, my house is a 7. Fabulous. If you don't mind, tell me what makes it a 7. Oh, well, we've upgraded the kitchen, but the bathrooms need work. Or we put new carpet and paint in, but our kitchen is really still from 1982. I also like to look at the house. So like, hey, by the way, it looks like your house is built in 1995. And I see houses that have been updated last week and houses that people haven't really done anything since 1995. Where do you fall on that? People like to talk about their house, especially if they've done some upgrades to it. Oh, you know what? We put a new patio and a swimming pool in and this, that, and the other. People like to talk about that. So if you're working home val leads, goal number 1 is to get them to talk about their house. And if they're talking about their house, you're building rapport, having a great conversation, it's much easier to slip some of those other things in. Like, have you considered selling your house? Is this something, if I had a buyer for you, you'd be interested in?
Yeah.
No, we don't want to sell for another year. Perfect.
Hey, guess what? You've just become a nurture in my system.
Exactly. So, all of this stuff that Dale and I are talking about, the 90% of it's long-term stuff, right? The stuff that used to be immediate business for people like Dale and I was FSBOs and expireds. Well, if there's 3 expireds in my entire market, I really can't base my business on that. If
Yeah.
and FSBOs are selling without us. And I hate to say this, there's sometimes they don't need us, but I will say this also. We sold a FSBO the other day, where we represented the buyer, not the seller. That seller sold their house for $40,000 under what we thought the house was worth.
Yeah. We're not saying that FSBOs are getting the best deal. We're not saying FSBOs have figured out how to maximize the value of their home. We're saying it's not hard for them to get it sold these days when buyers are running around crazy and they'll buy anything. So that's what we're saying. They sell too quickly. You typically, for sale by owners, need some marination time. They have to break down. They're like kale. Do you know what I mean? Like, you ever try to eat raw kale?
I have not.
Okay. Raw kale is it's for animals, literally, and it's very tough. It's very fibrous, but if you put some like vinegary salad dressing on it, it starts to break it down over time, and then you can eat it and it's more pleasant. That's how FSBOs work, right? Typically in normal markets, you got to break them down a little bit. They got to get punched in the face. They got to have several weekends where nobody came to see their house or didn't show up when they said they would, right? And then they'll talk to you often. However, what's happening is they're getting sold too fast these days. You go to follow up with them and they've sold.
So, and what I want everyone to remember, though, again, if I'm right, and I'm not claiming to be right, 90 to 180 days from now, when the market slows slightly, and I'm not saying it's going to like crawl. It's not going to become 2008 in the next 90 days. But if the market slows slightly and becomes a little bit more regular, then FSBOs are not going to sell overnight. So, it's a real thing out there. So be aware of that and just pay attention to it. Pay attention to how long those FSBOs are on the market. You start seeing FSBOs on the market for 30 to 60 days, start hopping on calling those people. They need your help. Right now, they don't need us, and that's okay. Builders don't need us right now either, but that's okay. That's going to change.
They will at some point in the future. Okay, so we've talked about the free low cost. You got to put the work in. We talked about sort of, spending some money, either referral fee or paying up front, and, helps to identify more people who are now or future business, and a lot of future business. But this is where the best leads come from. Now, this is the problem. The best marketing return, right, is where you have a well-established farm or sphere that you've been feeding over time, right? That you've been putting money into, marketing into, doing events in, meeting people who have been seeing you over and over again in relation to selling real estate or buying real estate. And unfortunately, that's nothing that you can create overnight, right? You just can't. You cannot grow an oak overnight, right? So, but you can. This is one of those things, Brian. It's something that I'm passionate about in working with teams, because so many of them took the easy road of buyer business and never established a solid seller business alongside of it. And when times were, balanced, or when times were, heavy buyer markets, that was fantastic. But now, the tide has gone out hard in a lot of areas, and it really is. It's put a spotlight on the fact that that was a missing piece of the business. The problem is it's a lengthy piece of the business to grow. It takes the longest to grow. So for those who don't have it, this is your wake up call. This is your opportunity to fix that issue and start growing it now. Would you agree?
100%. When should have you started doing farming? About 6 months ago, or maybe 6 years ago.
20 years ago.
That doesn't mean that it's not a good thing to do, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't start today. And there's always an opportunity to start. And if you want to be on the other side of this conversation, the next time Dale and I do this webinar, then start today. And that's really what I mean. And I'm assuming that we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like and how to go about it and some of the different things. And by the way, maybe give a little bit of modern spin on it as well.
Yeah. So traditional techniques that still work, like door knocking, mailers, still work, believe it or not. You just need to have a better call to action on those mailers. And as Brian and I have both discovered, you need to give it, don't start a mailer campaign unless you're going to devote at least 12 months to it. And you're going to have enough pieces that you're sending out. You have a decent message and branding, and you have some kind of call to action. Ideally, you'd be getting these people into your database and nurturing them, because listen, if anybody replies to your marketing and they want to transact now or in the near future, believe me, they're going to tell you. Everybody else are going to be nurturers, and you just have to look at it that way. It's not like you have to take somebody who is a nurturer and try to beat the now business out of them. That's not the way that it works. Nurturers will present themselves, and if somebody is now business, you can't help but notice it. So
Yeah,
hopefully everybody
absolutely
understands what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So,
and I think they will. I really do.
Yeah. So you run if you're going to do mailers, those work, community sponsorships, right? Advertising into your market. I really never got too much into the billboards and everything, but billboards, signage, things like that, sponsorships typically work better with a unique selling proposition where people have a reason to respond to you, not just branding plays. And what do I mean by that? I'm saying you don't just put your brokerage and your name and the fact that you were, number 5 agent in your county, right? That's a branding play. There's no clear value to somebody seeing that. A USP is something more along the lines of your home sold in X amount of time, or we do it for free, or, buyer rebate package of X, or talking about sellers, right? Any kind of seller strategy where you're doing something that is out of the ordinary.
Yeah, exactly. And, right now, it's funny. I own 63orfree.com. Great website. Basically, I'll sell your house in 63 days or sell it free. That's not a very good USP right now.
It's not much of a pitch right now. They're like, why the hell is it going to take 63 days to sell my house?
Right. What's wrong with my house, and why are you telling me it sucks so bad? So understand what your marketing is, and understand.
These are for very self-conscious people who think their house sucks. Oh, okay, good. He can get this crap shack sold in 63. Let's do it.
Yeah. So one of the things you might take a look at is a one-day listing. That might be a really cool thing.
One-day listing.
One-day
you give
listing.
me one day to openly market your home. I like that concept, Brian.
Yeah, it's a one-day listing, and that would be a great thing to farm. Yeah.
Oh, hell yes.
I'll put your house on the market for one day, and if you want to fire me after one day, fabulous. I'm okay with that. So that's a really cool thing in this market right now.
I can name off the top of my head several markets where, so whoever's listening to this, if they're in these markets like Utah, they're going to be jumping on that. They're going to be doing that. They would monkey knife fight you for a one-day listing.
Right. So, what is that? That's a flyer that's going out to my farm. And again, does that mean that we're going to get, 25 people who are going to call us back? No, I'm not saying that. A couple of things that I think are important with farming that we have opportunities to do today that we maybe didn't do 10 years ago. I would have a unique number for everything that's going out to my farm. And what do I mean by that? That means that I'm going to have not a 1-800 number. I'm going to have a number that's a marketing number. I use call action, for example. Shout out to Jesse Bodwine, supporter, one of our LCA moderators, great guy. I use call action. And so I know that anybody who calls off of a farming piece, I know, because I can go and look at that number, literally just look it up and go, oh, here's the 17 people who called us in the last 6 months off of this farming piece. So I know that I can track it. I can get real ROI and real understanding of what my marketing is doing. Here's another great piece, great opportunity that people miss. This is going to sound dumb, but if you're sending out letters, like literal letters to your farm, if your thing, a piece of paper has 2 sides. And what do I mean by that? That means I've got the entire front side, and I've got somebody who's paying me to have half of the back and somebody else who's paying me at half of the back, or break it into thirds. Who am I talking about? Heat and air, landscapers, roofers, any of these people, they will pay you to do this. And here's the script for all those who haven't figured this out yet. Hey, Mr. Roofer, would you like to show up on 2,000 houses every single month? Okay, tell me more about that. What's it cost me? $500.
Yep, I do all the work. Your name is on it, $500.
Yeah. Make sure that you go over and give them some sort of USP so they have a reason to contact them as well. But now my marketing just went from, what's a mailer cost? About 50 cents approximately after you do stamps and all this other stuff. So
Yeah.
if I can get somebody to pay me $500 a month for that, or $250 a month for that, I can get close to free farming.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of work. I got to go out and reach out to people about it, right? But what
Right.
the heck, why not? It's worth it to do that and get some co-marketing and get with some good vendors who like you. And guess what? When they show up, when the roofer shows up, hey, by the way, and coach these guys. When you go out, ask them, hey, so you're getting your roof replaced. Is that because you guys are going to stay here for the next 10 years, or are you guys considering selling? Oh, we're going to sell. Okay, you know what? Here's Brian's card. Work with these people. Don't just do the first step. Take it to step 2 or 3, where they're now literally your marketing people.
Yeah, absolutely. Leverage them. That's a great way to do it. You're leveraging Salesforce, just like you'd be leveraging. So one of the things that you can do is leverage somebody else's sphere of influence, right?
Mhm.
So if you partner with those roofers or with those HVAC people or with those lenders, whoever you're partnering with, you just say, listen, in addition to us marketing into this neighborhood and we have this agreement, how about you and I come up with an offer that we're going to make to each of our database, right? I'm going to offer the 1-day listing. What would you like to offer? That thing we have on our letter? Great. You blast out my 1-day listing offer to your database, and I'll blast out your offer to my database. It gives both of us the opportunity to put another touch into our database, but it lets me borrow your sphere and your past client, right? From a different industry, people that I may not know.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that's the name of the game, is trying to find those referrals and find those people who are willing to sell. Brian, let's talk about your 1-day listing concept, because I know that people listening to this who aren't running USPs are going to be like, oh my God, what if I can't get it sold in 1 day, and yada, 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 yada. Listen, first of all, what's going to happen is if you run any kind of USP, you're going to have people who inquire, who just simply want to know, how does that work? Or I don't believe you, or I'm already doing this other thing over here. Can I switch to you? Or this is my unique set of circumstances. Can we work together? Like, will it work for me? So it's not that it's like a hole in one and it's going to do all of the scrubbing for you, but it's going to provide opportunity for you. And it's going to identify more people who either do something now or will do something in the future, or even if it doesn't work for them, it still puts people in front of you who are somewhere in that sales funnel.
Yeah, and that's all we're trying to do. Like it's marketing, guys. Like you see stuff all the time on television. Like think about if you're watching television, I'm not promoting watching television, but watch the marketing that these other people are doing. We're going to give you $1,000 off if you use Rebath. I see that one all the time. Or you got to come up with some reason for these people to call you. And what's a 1-day listing agreement? Basically, I'm probably going to have 6-month listing agreement with a clause in there that says, if you want to cancel at any time, send me an email that says I cancel my listing agreement. I'll immediately remove it. Or you can literally do it for 1 day. Sign your listing agreement for 1 day, and then call them at the end of that day and say, would you like to extend your listing agreement, or are you done?
Yeah.
I mean,
So it's a renewing agreement, right? Hey, you
yep.
list with me for 1 day, it auto renews until you cancel it.
Yeah,
That's how it works. You're listed with me.
absolutely.
Surprise. That's kind of how it works anyway.
Right. Or you can literally say your listing agreement starts on today's April 28th. It ends on April 29th. I'm going to call you on April 29th at 4 o'clock and ask you if you want to renew. Just tell them the truth. There's nothing wrong with that. And by the way, if you're going to do this 1-day listing agreement, be smarter about it. And here's what I mean by that. Don't call them today and it goes on the market tomorrow. That's not how that works. What you're going to do is say, great, we're going to take pictures. We're going to do all this stuff that we got to do to get your house on the market. Because I don't know about you, but for me, from the moment someone signs a listing agreement, it takes me about 72 business hours, because I've got to get my photographer over there. I've got to get it all written up. So I'm going to do that. What am I doing with that 72 hours?
Telling
I'm calling
everybody
my
that
database.
you know, right?
And that's,
Everyone that
yeah.
you can get in front of.
Right. And so, and then you have this discussion with that person. Guys, if it's me, I guarantee you I'm going to have an offer for. I've got 12 people who want to see your house already. And I know that, and I've already done that marketing. So your house goes live tomorrow. My question for you is, do you want to continue?
Yeah, you might have a buyer in some of these markets like mine in certain neighborhoods. You will have a buyer when the lead comes in and says what their address is. And you're like, I got a buyer for that one. As long as it's not overpriced by 100K, we can get it sold.
So, and again, so here's the script with that seller. Like, look, we had your house listed for one day. We have 7 offers. We can accept one of those offers. We can reject all those offers. We can counteroffer all those offers. We can do multiple offer notification. Those are our options. If it's me, and it's completely up to you, what I want to do is extend the listing agreement for 4 or 5 days. And the reason I want to do that is I believe we can get, if it's not my, good point. We want to be able to get that out there so that we can, potentially get a higher thing. I don't care, Dale, I'll do whatever you want. I just want to give you the options and let you make the choice. Which of those choices makes the most sense for you? Yeah. Would you like to accept one of those offers, or would you like to market your house a couple more days? I'm good either way.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Be sincere about that. I am good either way. The truth of the matter is, I hope they accept one of the offers. I hope it's mine, and I'm writing a check here in 30 days. I don't want to deal with, I don't know about you personally, but I don't want to deal with the 37 offers. I'd rather deal with 5 or 6. That's much easier to deal with.
No, it's not fun having to break hearts, man. No. Everybody is just as needy as the other person, and everybody loves it as much as everybody else does. And, co-ops get mad at you and yada, yada. So, nope, that sucks. All right. So here's what, I think we're at the top of the hour. We're gonna wrap it up. But one thing that I want to say for anybody listening is, here's what I want you to do. If you are not already if you don't already have a regular process or a regular time block in your schedule for seller lead generation, for specifically looking for and asking for sellers, I want you to decide how much of your schedule weekly you're going to dedicate to specifically looking for sellers, and then figure out what your plan is. What methodologies are you going to use? You're going to use some free stuff, a little bit of paid stuff, some referral stuff, start stacking them up, and then execute and spend that time actively looking for sellers, because you have to, or you don't have to. But personally, I don't like the business of waiting, having all these potential buyers who may or may not do what has to be done, and waiting for my fellow licensed agents out there to go and find the listings, not immediately have a buyer for it, stick it into the Shark Tank where my people have to battle for it. Like, I don't like that. That is not a good way to operate for me. So I want to dedicate X amount of time each week to going fishing upstream and finding that stuff that I don't have to battle over.
Yeah. And remember this, guys, this is the thing that I think a lot of agents are missing. You have to be flexible in every market that's in. Right now, bring value to that seller when you're talking to them. So if you're talking about the one-day listing, or if you're just talking to an old expired, why do I even want to have a conversation with you? I've got a list of buyers who are interested in your house. That's a value proposition. Or, I've got a whole bunch of people who I can bring over. And by the way, our marketing is bringing usually 20 to 30 listing or 20 to 30 offers on a house. Whatever it is, bring that value. Don't go with the same thing. I'm the greatest agent on the planet, da, da, da. Come with an actual tangible value that I can bring to these people. Those are the people they want to work with. They're not interested in working with somebody who doesn't have a tangible value.
Yep, absolutely. All right. LabCoatAgents, thank you so much for joining me and Brian. It's been a pleasure. Amanda, you are very welcome. I'm so happy. Amanda, figure out how much time you're going to spend calling sellers or finding sellers, and execute. So from both Brian and I, come to Cash Call in LabCoatAgents Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. And so you can learn more tips and tricks and strategies. Good seeing you guys.
And real quick before I let you guys go, if you go look on Facebook, you can see some of the stuff that Dale, I posted in there about Street Text. I posted in there about the YouTube channel, and some of the other ideas. So that if you want to see a replay of this, that's where you can go to find it. And so just go take a look at that. There's some good information there as well.